A big thank you to Hadley. Hadley, you were assigned one of the Torah's most challenging portions, describing in great deal tzara'at, a repulsive affliction that disfigures the body, contaminates the home, and alienates people from community. And you never once complained. And believe me, lots of people do. Rabbinical students, rabbis, parents, congregants in Torah study, lots and lots of people want to turn away from Metzora. But Hadley did not avert her gaze. She dove into the text and she lifted up a haunting question about the purification ritual. And in the 28 years of my rabbinate, and the 5 years of rabbinical school before that, she is the first person I know who stared at the mess of Metzora and noticed the suffering of the innocent bird doomed to death. And she asked, how did the priests decide which bird would live and which would die? Was it random? Was there a reason? In her question alone, Hadley taught us the power of compassion. And that was only revealed because she chose to look and she chose to see. See something that she didn't want to see as someone who loves God's creations. The Torah insists that the priest closely examine the wound and see how it is disfiguring the person. When a house is afflicted, the priest must follow the trace of the disease attacking the walls and see how it infiltrates the home's foundation. Recognizing what is there is necessary for stopping spread and promoting recovery. This week, we were reminded of the dangers that emerge when we turn away from what makes us uncomfortable and confused. On April 29th, in Ra'anana, Israel, a violent mob of right-wing Israelis stormed a Reformed synagogue, trying to shut down a shared grief ceremony. Since 2006, Jews and Palestinians have gathered to mourn together on Yom HaZikaron Memorial Day. The event is planned by Combatants for Peace and the Parents Circle Families Forum, a group of people who have lost members of their family in the conflict. Both of these are organizations who we have hosted here at Temple Emanu-El several times, most recently this fall. Participants in this memorial ceremony do not deny or erase the differences between them. They don't compare experiences or point fingers. They simply and profoundly fulfill the priestly act of looking and seeing each other's pain along with their own. They model what Metzora teaches. Confronting the upset of seeing another's pain is the first step toward healing. So I'm going to ask us to do what Metzora commands us to do, what these people do, and what Hadley did, and take a moment now and turn toward this wound. And before I give you a glimpse of what happened, please know, it deeply pains me to share details of this attack. Today is Shabbat, a Shabbat graced by the wonder of a child of this congregation coming to the Torah as a bat mitzvah, a peak celebration for her family and for her synagogue family. But today, Hadley became our teacher, and she taught us we need to look at the suffering of the most vulnerable and ask why. And so as her students, we must. A violent mob of hundreds set off fireworks and stormed the synagogue, breaking windows, chairs, damaging cars, physically assaulting those inside and those running to escape. They threw stones, eggs, garbage cans. They hurled vulgarities and threats. Go to Gaza, let Hamas kill you. Attackers spit on congregants and tore kippot off their heads, shouting, "You don't have the right to wear these." This was not a surprise attack. There was notice that something was being planned, and officers and officials turned away. Some even encouraged the violence. An advisor to National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir circulated flyers describing the event of the memorial as one that would be honoring terrorists and encouraged people to stop it. My friend's 70-year-old brother, a member of the congregation who was attending the event, as he was running out for safety, asked a police officer why he wasn't arresting the attackers. The police officer answered, "Shut up or I'll arrest you." Some local Likud city leaders were part of the mob, and the head of the Likud branch posted afterwards on social media, "This was just a warning shot." It is important to note that this memorial service is quite controversial to many. There was dissent even among members of the congregation as to its screening in their synagogue. It happened in a private location, and it was screened all around the country. Some congregants grappled with the message and the timing and the place of the event, and they felt it was inappropriate. Some even thought offensive. They made their feelings known, and they didn't come. Peaceful dissent is the mark of a healthy community. We never expect that everyone is going to feel the same way about everything. But stoking and committing violence is the eruption of an ignored, long, festering wound, which will only continue to grow if we don't stop it. The violence that happened in this Israeli town stems from a disease that has taken root and is, in fact, spreading. Orly Erez Likovsky, a friend to this congregation and executive director of the Reform Movement's Israeli Religion Action Center, wrote this after being treated for an injury she incurred on that day. This attack was a desecration of the memory of the fallen, those who died so we could live in a free, democratic country that is supposed to respect all of its citizens, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, or political views. This attack is part of a long chain of assaults on those very values. It is years in the making, and it is now reaching a dangerous peak. As Hadley pushes us to do so, I have been and will continue to ask myself, why? I am going to consider how I have been looking away, examining how I might have, even unconsciously, enabled this violence. How and why have I considered other people's losses and griefs differently from my own? How and why have I prioritized my security over the security of others? How and why do I think people are more different than we are the same? How and why do I choose not to look when I need to look and to see? And perhaps most importantly, how and why do I think that I can't make a difference, knowing that the only way for this to stop is for all of us to make it stop? The Israeli and Palestinian survivors of the conflict who spoke at the memorial, who have been speaking at this memorial for the last 20 years, they have each suffered lasting, devastating losses due to the conflict in their region. And they are not turning away from the other person's pain, even now. Even now, in the grief and intensity of their own, they look at members of the community, of the others from where that violence stemmed, and they hold that person's grief and hurt with their own. If they can do it, I know that I can and must do it. In closing, I would like to share a story I heard a few days ago from Brian Stevenson, the civil rights lawyer and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative. It provided me strength that I will carry with me as I confront what is painful. And it really did give me so much hope in the wake of this devastating news. And so I would like to share it with you. It brought me some healing and has inspired me to move forward toward healing. He explained that the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, has a wall of jars filled with soil from sites where people were lynched. And he explained that a Black woman was collecting soil in an isolated area of Alabama when she noticed a white man driving a car, slowing down and staring at her, and then driving off. And then he drove back and slowed down and looked at her, parked and got out of the car and approached. And she was nervous. He asked her what she was doing, and she considered saying that she was gathering some soil from her garden because she didn't want to do anything or say anything that might be provocative. But something in her, she said, wouldn't let her do that. Something in her, she said, forced her to be honest about what she was doing and why. So she told him the truth. She told him about the project, her involvement with the museum, and she said there was a lynching here, and so I am collecting soil and putting it in these jars so that no one will forget. The man listened, and then he asked if he could help. She offered him her shovel. He said, no, I'll use my hands. And together they dug. She noticed that there were tears on his face, and she put her hand on his arm and said, are you okay? And he said, I'm just realizing that my granddaddy may have participated in some of these lynchings. They continued collecting the soil, and when they finished, they sat and they cried. Then together they took the jars to the museum. Those jars stand there now, a visual testament of shared grief. These two people are modern-day priests, just like those people who participate in those memorial services and those who attend their screenings. Instead of ignoring what was painful and frightening, these two people literally excavated wounds at their root. They reflected the courage that it takes to hold another person's grief with their own, and they embodied Hadley's instinct towards compassion. If they could do that, we must do that. And so I invite you to join me. Amen.